Welcome to the Mindset Architect podcast, where it's all about creating the life you want, the business you want, and making a real difference. Join us in unlocking the code to true success. And now your host, Tony Caliendo, Master Coach with Rethink Coaching.
Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, episode number 58. I'm Tony Caliendo, Master Coach here at Rethink Coaching. And as always, I want to just take a minute to thank you for joining me. Time is our largest asset. And the fact that you're investing it and sharing it with me truly means so much. And so I just want to invite you today. I'm going to be your coach today, and we're going to talk about planning because it's just that time of year. So I'm not sure when you're going to be listening to this. This podcast will be dropped in the month of October, which is always a great month for us to look at some planning. And we've talked about this before, and I just want to talk about it again because it is such a critical time for us to figure out what we're going to do next and what that's going to look like for us. And so why is planning important? A lot of times I think we go through the task of planning just because it's what we're supposed to do. And the reality of why we should do planning is because it gives a sense of peace to our brains and to our thoughts. We know exactly where we desire to go, where we're headed, what's next. And it allows your brain to be a little bit more calm about what we're going to be doing in the upcoming months, years, whatever that timeline is for you. Without it, we tend to scramble. We tend to just go with the flow, go with whatever's happening in the moment. And we may actually, end up sabotaging ourselves if we aren't clear on where we're headed. So it's important to have that clarity. Again, the biggest reason is it gives your brain a knowledge of the direction we're going. It's like getting in your car and putting in a GPS address, and the car will take you directly to that address 99% of the time. It's that clarity that we're looking to do for your brain as well, because your brain is composed of a bunch of neural highways. And without a clear path as to where we're going, you could get lost in the weeds really, really easily. So think about it as being back in the days without GPS for those of us who can remember that. And here's the question I think that may cause pause for people when it comes to creating their plan for the upcoming year. And that might simply be, but what if I failed meeting my goal this year, previous years? I never seem to be able to get to that goal. And I don't see the value of writing a plan. In fact, I feel like it's a complete waste of my time. And I'm going to challenge you on this because I think if that has happened, it's okay. Because here's what I believe to be true. If I set a stretch goal for the upcoming year, so let's say I set a goal to increase my sales volume from 20 million to 30 million. That's a pretty big stretch. But in that process, I might end the year at, let's say, 26 or 27 million. Did I fall short? Yes. But here is also what I know. If I would have said, hey, I'm going to go from 20 million to 24 million, chances are I would have fallen short of that goal and ended up somewhere around 22 million. And so the stretch and the acknowledgement that we may not hit our actual number is part of the game. It's part of the process to create the space for your brain to think bigger and stretch it. And what I love is once the brain is stretched, it doesn't ever go back. It's kind of like stretching some plastic, neuroplasticity, because once you stretch it, it remains stretched. And that's what I love about setting a more aggressive goal. So if you didn't make it, I think that's okay. I think we have some opportunity, but I don't think it's a horrible thing. So don't beat yourself up so much if year after year you're setting this bigger goal and you're not hitting it. As long as you're growing and moving toward it, I think that's the bigger win. Now, if you're sliding backwards or doing the same amount year after year, I do think that there's some opportunity for you to think differently and to really take a different approach to your business plan that may actually allow you to open up that door to hit the goal or to come really close to it. And some people even exceeding it. It just really depends on how you write your plan from the beginning. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is we set a goal. And a lot of times it's a financial goal to earn X amount of money. or to have X amount of money in our account at the end of the year. Or when we focus on that number part of it, and the reality of it is your business plan is doing one really important thing. It's outlining your life. It's outlining your future self. It's outlining what the possibility is for you in the future. It's not just an ambiguous number. And for the clients that I have the privilege of working with, we're having that conversation. Don't just think about it as a number. Don't think about it as a destination. Think about the impact it's going to have and what it's doing to help you create that life that you want, that life by intention or that life by design. And you're going to get there when you achieve the other portion, the financial pieces of the goal. So we need to do a better job of attaching our life to our goal and not being detached from it, that it's just a number, and look at the impact it can make, who we get to impact, what it's going to do for us, and tie those two things together, because that makes the goal a lot more exciting. Now and I'm not going to criticize, but I'm going to share my opinion on this. I've seen a lot of coaches do this, and it kind of drives me crazy, to be honest with you. They'll ask you to put down a goal. So let's say, previous example, we put down a goal to sell 30 million. And then they'll ask you to add a zero to the end of it and go from 30 million to 300, or to double it. Well, if you can do 30, let's double it and do 60. And while I think that is kind of cool in the moment, that it can create a moment in your brain of, oh my gosh, what would that be like? It can also really set you up for some significant disappointments, because doubling or adding a zero onto the end can be exciting. And what's the reality of doing that in a 12-month time period? It may not be truly achievable if you break it down and look at the activities that you must do to get there. So I know a lot from my real estate agents that we coach, if you looked at, hey, I'm going to double, okay, well, that means you need to have double the appointments. You need to have double the listings. You need to have double the buyers. You need to have double the contacts. You need to have double the follow-up. Everything gets doubled. And that might be achievable if you have leverage. If it's just you, or just you and one other person, you may not have the leverage you need to actually do the activity to get there. And so what happens as time goes on, this gap builds between where you are and what the goal is. And it really does mess with your mind and your possibility. And what I have seen happen when somebody sets a very unrealistic goal is that about 90 to 120 days in, they surrender, because they have their moment of realization that it's just not possible to achieve the activities needed in the amount of time that we all have as human beings in our day to get to that goal if their team is not set up correctly. So when you're setting the goal, please, I'm just asking you can fantasize and think about and future pace what it'd be like to double, what it would be like to add a zero to it from 30 million to 300 million. You can do that, because I think it's very exciting to look at the possibility. I just think you have to be cautious that you're not setting yourself up for failure or frustration or disappointment. I think that's a piece that misses when coaches tell you to do that. And that's not something that I enjoy doing with my clients, because I want to create a stretch, but I want it to be realistic. The other thing that I'm not sure that we do such a great job of is looking at the reasons why it's important to grow your business or to achieve a new financial goal. We already talked about what's the impact on you, right? What's the impact on your life? But have you ever considered, what's the impact on my family and friends if I achieve this? So I think about, for me, from my family, obviously is impacted by my reaching of a goal and achieving a certain financial level of success. And I also think that it impacts what I get to do with the money. Like, it's not about the money, it's about what the money can do. So when I remove it from just being about me, and yes, I love to think about what it can do for me and what it can do for my friends and family. And I also like to take it outside of that friends and family and think about, what can I do for the charities that I like to support, or the big donations I like to make, or somebody that I find in my life that just needs help, friend or family, that I can help them financially. It's not just about writing a check, but I can help them financially bridge between where they are and where they want to go. And the other piece that I love to think about is, if you have a team, your family and friends, but also what's the legacy I'm going to get to leave behind? And I think that that is a critical piece of our business planning that a lot of times we don't consider, is really taking a look at when it's all said and done and I've left this earth and moved on to what I believe to be my next journey, have I left a legacy behind? To some people, that's not important. I think if you have kids, family, friends, nieces, nephews, cousins, whoever that you would like to leave an opportunity for, it's important to think about the legacy you're going to leave behind. For everybody, this is very different. However, I think that it's kind of cool to think about the legacy. I know I've done something like that for me with my parents. I've set up a scholarship in their name at the university they went to, and that's kind of a nod to their legacy. And I will have arrangements made that after I am gone, a certain amount of money goes to continue that. And so that to me is important, and it excites me because what this is doing, when you go from just thinking about yourself to thinking about your team, to thinking about your friends and family, to thinking about a legacy, it allows you to think outside of yourself and really think about the impact that you get to make. And to me, that's a huge motivator when I'm on my journey to my goal. So plan that year, determine why it's important, acknowledge that it's okay if you've failed in the past, tie it to your life goals, don't double it, and look at the 4 reasons why it's important that you get to goal. Now, I just talked about, don't double, don't add a zero, don't. But I do want to talk about something that's really important. We as people overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 5 years. It's just how our little brains work. And so I'm going to invite you to think about this differently. And I'm going to invite you to think about this in a simple manner with me. I want you to think about a 3-year goal, a 1-year goal, and a 90-day goal. And I think this is the biggest game changer that my clients are experiencing right now, is when we break it down to a 90-day. And I want to explain why. So let's just say we had a 3-year goal to make $1 million. And I think anybody and everybody can earn whatever amount of money they choose to make. I think it's very possible for every entrepreneur out there to make $1 million plus a year. So I'm going to set the goal of, in 3 years, it's $1 million. So that's at the end of 3 years, I will have made $1 million. What has to happen then in 1 year? Well, if I take $1 million divided by 3, that's roughly 333,333, whatever. But I can look at it now and say, okay, to get to the $1 million in 3 years, what do I have to do in the first, second, and third year? And I break it down. So I would say, okay, in a year, it's 333,000 for simplicity. And then I would say, how do I break this down into 90-day chunks? How do I make this more realistic? And I would say, hey, in 90 days to support my 3-year, 1 year, I need to earn, what is that, $70,000 every quarter, every 90 days to get to my, that's not right, to get to my 333,000, I would need to, in 90 days, give me just a second. Yeah, I would need to make $83,000 in the next 90 days and do that every 90 days. Now, all of a sudden, that big goal of of 3 million is more digestible at 83,000 every 90 days. And if you're selling real estate, 83,000 in 90 days is realistic. It really is. Everything is, if you look at it. So what I would say to do, again, this is something I work with my private coaching clients, is keep in your mind the $1 million goal at the end of year 3. Keep in your mind the annual goal of 333,333, whatever it is, but really focus on the 90 days in front of you. And that's it. Because if we get too lost in the 1 year, 3 year, and we lose sight of what we're going to do in the next 90 days, it can within itself become overwhelming. So I like to focus, hey, in 90 days, $83,000. That's it. All I have to do is make $83,000 in the next 90 days. Now, for some of you, you might be like, oh my gosh, if I made $300,000 in 3 years, great. Break it down to whatever you need it to be. But just for the sake of this example, I've taken this big goal that I've never achieved before of 1 million, and I've broken it down into annual, 333 per year. And now I've broken it down into 90-day chunk. And I can stay focused, present, I can stay committed, and I can stay extremely motivated when I just have a 90-day runway in front of me to get to that goal. Not think about, okay, I got to get to 333,000 this year. Nope, I have to get to 83,000. That's all I need to do in the next 90 days. Now we can take that 83,000 and start doing some math and break it down to how many appointments do I need to have? How many sales do I need to make? How many, and really chunk that down and then plan it out in 30-day chunks and then break those down to weekly. It just becomes so much more realistic. So in the past, if you haven't hit your goal, maybe it's because you weren't looking at it correctly. Maybe it's because you were just so focused on this big, hairy goal at the end of the year that your brain just wasn't able to process the true way forward to get there. And that's simply by breaking it down into 90-day chunks. That's the easiest thing for me to do when I look at my business, is just stay so laser focused on 90 days, 90 days, 90 days, not 365, 90 days, and be present in that and be willing to measure and to play for wins and losses, W's and L's, because to move forward, we have to win a lot and we have to lose a lot. And so to just be in that 90-day groove and embrace it as you've got a good plan, you've got a great strategy, we're going to play to win, and we're also going to play and lose sometimes. But in that lose, in that 90 days, I'm fixing things along the way so that I don't lose on day 365. That to me is really critical. And I think that is where people who've not reached their goal and who've not achieved their plan that they had for previous years fall into a trap, is they're so focused on the 365, they don't pay attention until the end of the year and they're like, oh crap, I didn't make the goal. And some of them may not even at that point stop and assess and think, what could have I done differently? We just rewrite a plan for the next year and we move ahead doing the same thing. That's the brilliance of breaking things down into 90-day, 30-day, and weekly chunks, is just know you're going to win and you're going to lose. Every day, every week, you're going to win and you're going to lose. And we want to win more, right? However, if we lose, it's okay. If we lose and are aware of it in a week or 30 days or 90 days and can make some fine tune, some tweaks, we're setting ourselves up for a better chance of getting to the goal that we set for ourselves in 12 months. And knowing that that 12-month goal is part of my 3-year, 36-month goal, it's all building on it. And so really do yourself a favor, get a business plan, really look at it 3 years, 1 year, 90 days, and focus on the 90 days. If you're listening to this podcast next week, it's going to be the first 10 days of October. What if you set your 90-day goal to prime yourself for Q1 of 2025 and just learn what it feels like to focus on a 90-day goal? I'm not saying if you're massively behind in your year to say you're going to close the gap in 90 days, that I think is going to set yourself up for failure. But what would be a realistic 90-day goal that on December 31st, when you're closing out your year, you would look at and be really proud of what you did over the last 90 days? Super proud of what you did over the last 90 days. This is a behavior or a habit that if we start now, will help our Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and future quarters into the future. But developing that habit right now and that laser focus on the next 90 days will really set you up for a powerful 2025. Again, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, set you up for a really powerful next year. I love 90-day strategies. I really do. And for the simple reason of they're just packed full of wins and losses. They're packed full of opportunity for me. It's a short sprint. It's not 365 days. The other thing that it does for me is it takes me out of the mindset I've got plenty of time. I can't tell you the number of clients that I've talked to or agents across the country or entrepreneurs across the country who failed in January and February. And they say, it's okay. It's only February. Is it okay? Is it okay? Because the mind is trying to seduce you into thinking, don't worry, you have 10 months left. But if I shrink my year to 90 days, that whole thought of I've got plenty of time is taken away. And it creates a sense of urgency. It creates a sense of necessity and what's non-negotiable and what must I do and what did I fail at so I can fix it right away so I can start succeeding at it in my short 90-day window. That's the number one thing that I love about breaking things down 3 or 1 year, 90 days is it really does have a start and an end that's very palpable, that you can see it, you can feel it, you can taste it, and it keeps you in flow. It keeps you moving forward. If you're an agent or an entrepreneur and you would like a copy of a very simple business plan, team, I have to tell you, I've been guilty of this as a coach, creating these massive page after page after page after page of business planning. I, this year, have condensed it to a page and a half, and that is your strategy right in front of you. So if you would like a copy of the business plan that we use here at Rethink Coaching, just send me an email, tony@rethinkcoaching.com, and ask for the upcoming year's business plan. I've got it outlined. I'm going to do a webinar on this as well to explain it to those in my private coaching business, as well as anybody who wants to step in and learn. Again, you just need to reach out to me to get the information on that. I'll send you a link to the webinar. I will include you in what I'm doing for our clients this upcoming year. My intention and my goal is to focus on 90-day sprints and to celebrate the wins weekly, monthly, and quarterly. And celebrating those wins sets you up for another future win. So if you're struggling with, or you just don't have a clear business plan in front of you, please reach out. You can email me. You can find me on Instagram, Tony M. Caliendo. You can find me on Facebook. You can just Google me and find me. And I'm just going to ask that you do that and ask for a copy of our business plan. It's a template and it's very simple to follow. I will have an instruction sheet, but I would invite you to come to a webinar to watch this, and I will have details for that webinar for you. And I'll run several of them this year because of the importance of getting everybody into a place that they're comfortable with their upcoming year. I am, though, going to invite you, even if you don't have a plan, to ask yourself, what could I do now for the next 90 days? And then at the end of the time of the 90 days, I would be so proud of what I accomplished and focus on that in addition to writing our next year plan, but really just focus on your next 90 days. It's a blast to do it. It truly is so much fun and just a better way to experience a business plan. So we know why it's important. It's going to give your brain, it's like plugging the GPS coordinates into your GPS system, and your car drives to exactly where it needs to go. We're doing the same thing in creating a plan for your brain. If you failed in the past, it may not be you. It may be the way you wrote the plan. It may be the way you're thinking about the plan. It could be a lot of elements to it. Yet it's okay if you failed in the past. It is not a waste of time to do it for this upcoming year, as long as you do it in a powerful way. Tie your goal to your life, your future self, and the impact that it's going to have. Resist the outrageous goal setting that other coaches may endorse or encourage. I think to fantasize or to think about a future self when that number is hit is great. I don't believe that it's setting you up for any kind of success in the 90-day, 12-month, or 36 months ahead of you. because of the amount of work that it would take to get there. I'm not saying you're not willing to work hard. A lot of times when we just break down the numbers, it's physically impossible. And the number of hours in the day do not support what would have to be done by you to get to that goal. Can we create a team? Can we create leverage? Yes. That's a whole nother conversation. Remember the 4 reasons why you're doing this. You are number 1. If you have a team, number 2. Family and friends, number 3. In fact, they may be number 2, maybe number 1. It doesn't matter the order. And then lastly, are you planning on leaving any kind of a legacy? I think that's a really important thing to wrap our brains around when we're creating this goal. Again, we're going to tie our life to it, not just look at it as a number. And then when we start thinking outside of ourselves, friends, family, team members, and legacy, it starts to create a completely different energy and feeling than if you just keep it about you and a number. And then lastly, 3-year goal. What has to happen each year, break it down to a yearly goal, and then break it down to that 90-day, that 3-month plan that we just focus on. And that's our only focus, because if we meet our 90-day every quarter, we're going to meet our annual. If we meet our annual every year, we're going to meet our 3-year goal. It's really simple. We just make it complicated. And a lot of us love forms and spreadsheets and all these great forecast tools. And this is about getting into action and doing the right thing. So again, if you're needing some help, please reach out. I love business planning. I think it's one of the coolest things you can do for yourself, your family, your business, and your future. It truly is. And there's nothing more exciting than knowing that you are creating your life and your business by design. You're creating financial freedom. You're creating business freedom. You're creating soul freedom. Every time you write a business plan, those elements are built into it. And that's why I love business planning, because it's a glimpse into your future and all of the things that you can make an impact on. So I hope you find this helpful. Embrace business planning. If you've failed in the past, let it go. If you're ready to look at this differently, reach out. Happy to share with you the template. It's really happy to invite you to come and join on one of our webinars to talk about how to make this work for you. All right, team, we'll talk to you in a week. Go make it a great week. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you must come check out the Mindset Architect Group Coaching Program. It's our monthly program where we explore the power of your mindset, help you identify what you truly want in business and life, and then help you reach those goals. Come check us out at rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. That's rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. We'll see you there.